Good afternoon. It's Ward Susanbach here with edition number 8 of Tales from the Sweet Brook. This one I've entitled We Lost It All. What would you do if you've only been married 5 days and everything you and your bride have, including all the wedding presents, disappear? That's exactly what happened to us in May of 1969. Well, let me back up a little bit. I first met Norma when we were at Greenville College. She and I were in the same speech class and a few other classes. But I was 18 and she was 23. And that's a lot of difference in age for when you're a teenager. Later, I'm in Chicago and I am attending the Winston Park Free Methodist Church in Melrose Park. And 1 mile away, Norma is attending the Bethany Free Methodist Church, which happened to be an Italian mission started by Grandma Manoia, Jim Manoia's grandmother. And it was mostly Italians that attended that church, the Caliendos, the Casarellos, the Raimondos, the Manoias, and others. At conference time, the conference chose to merge the two churches. And as they merged the two churches, she was the choir director at one, I was at the other one, and so she became my assistant. I've often said it took an act of God to get us together, or maybe it was an act of the conference. Tom Raimondo tells me he thinks it's the only good thing that came out of that merger because it turned out that most of the Italians left that church. They had lost their identity. Nevertheless, it was a start for us. We had our first date, went to Orchestra Hall for Roger Wagner Chorale, and I invited John and Sharon Dottie to go with us because I had 4 tickets. They were free, we were on the back row. And after that, went for a sandwich, Norma and I did, to Peterson's Ice Cream, and Sharon went on to choir practice, and we were late, and she explained why we were late, because we were on our first date. Well, so began a journey together, Norma and me. We'd have about 6 or so dates, and then I broke up over Christmas. I don't think it was because I didn't want to buy a present, because I love to buy presents. I know I made the statement, I can never be a Free Methodist, and she said, I wasn't really asking you to be a Free Methodist. I thought, Lord, make my words tender today, for tomorrow I may have to eat it. I've been a Free Methodist pastor for 42 years. I think that was a crazy statement, but nevertheless, I said it, and I admit to it. So we got married May 24th, 1969 at the Melrose Park Church. After the ceremony, we headed off to northern Wisconsin, actually to the Dells, and then on up to Barron to visit Norma's family. I'd only met her parents once, and that was at the wedding. I had asked them for her hand in marriage on Norma's 30th birthday on March 16th, and her brothers thought she was just getting married because she was 30 and afraid she was going to miss out. And her sister-in-law said, oh, back off, guys. She likes this guy. And they learned to like me, and I learned to love them, and my in-laws. They were wonderful people. Back to the story. So we went on the honeymoon, went up there, went to Greenville to see my parents, came back to Chicago, and we decided to pack all our gifts in a U-Haul, getting ready to go to Omaha. Our next assignment was going to be at Offutt Air Force Base, the Elkhorn receiver site. So we did that. We packed everything in a U-Haul. 5x8 U-Haul held everything we owned. I mean, everything we owned. And so here we are, and we even packed in there my Air Force uniforms. I thought I'd have them when I got there. I packed my orders were in the glove compartment of the car. You're really supposed to have it on your person at all times, but I didn't think much about it. I thought, well, they're in the car. I'll have them with me. And the day before we packed the car, I had lost all of our $385 worth of traveler's checks. It was money from wedding things, from wedding gifts. Well, how am I going to get that back? So we ended up going to a bank because I found the receipts, and we got the money back, but I mailed a bunch of bills in a trash slot. I was a nervous wreck, I guess. and I had to get a custodian to open it up so I could get them out and put them in a proper mailbox. A doctor in the hospital had offered Norma and me $400. He said, I know that this happens to people, but I've never heard it happen to anybody I know. Can I help you? I would be happy to loan you $400, pay it back whenever you feel like. So Dr. Nicholas loaned us $400. We paid it back later. It was a blessing. So we packed all that stuff in the U-Haul, and the next morning it was gone. It may have been gone the night before, for all we know. It was gone. We called the Chicago police. They weren't really much help. We wouldn't get anything back for a couple weeks. We would get back the car in the empty U-Haul with some damage to the car. But in the meantime, we've got to get onto the Air Force Base because I had orders. I did call the base and told them my predicament, and they gave me a few extra days and said, what in the world? How would you lose everything? How would everything get stolen? When I went to arrive at the base, I couldn't check in because I didn't have a uniform, didn't even have a needle and thread or a pair of scissors or anything. Everything we had was lost. Everything we owned would fit in a 5x8 U-Haul trailer and a car. Well, anyway, after much haggling with the Air Force about it, we were able to get permission to go on the base without a uniform and buy a uniform so I could check in. We had rented a car to go to Omaha, and the car, so when we got out there, we had to find a place to stay. Well, a friend of my sister and brother-in-law's, Floyd and Maureen Cooper, who were pastoring the Omaha Free Methodist Church, had heard about our predicament. They sent the key to their house back with Ruth and Dave to my parents' home and said we could stay there for a few days. So we moved into a home of some people we never met. They were very trusting and lived in that home for a couple weeks while we were getting other arrangements. We bought a mobile home, a 12 by 50 mobile home, and it was furnished with everything we need. And we began life together in Omaha. We learned some lessons from this story. One was that Norma had a saying that she would say several times later. She said at one time when the kids were fighting over a little planter that they'd gotten when they were born, and one of them fell on the ground and broke. And Norma told them, we don't cry over broken things, we cry over broken people. Now, she wasn't saying that things aren't important. She was just saying, keep your priorities straight. People are more important than things. And I thought about that many times. That's exactly what we felt about this situation. We lost everything we owned, but we didn't lose each other. And we were so thankful that we had a safe travel to Omaha. We didn't lose each other. Nobody was hurt, no accident. We just lost things that could eventually be replaced. And I can tell you, when we moved from Michigan back to Illinois, I think we had 3 26-foot trucks. So obviously we had gained a lot of stuff. We did have to write thank you notes because we had the guest book that listed all of the gifts we got. Of course, we didn't have them. So what do you say? We said, thank you for the gift. We didn't tell them we'd lost it because that seemed like we might be asking for a replacement. We didn't want to do that. So then we went shopping to the Woods Mall in Omaha to see how much these gifts were actually worth so we could take it off of our income tax as a casualty loss. We had no insurance on it. Let me just say this. It was a rough start to our marriage, but it was a good lesson for us that we would remember the rest of our lives, that people are more important than things, and that we could get through this. Thank God that he was with us. May you have a wonderful day.